Okay, hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we're going to look at encrypted root device volumes and snapshots. And this is a lab and you will need to log into the AWS console. Okay, so here I am in the AWS console. I'm going to go over to services and go to EC2 under compute. We're going to go in and provision some new instances. I'm going to go ahead and launch my instance. I'm going to use an Amazon Linux 2 AMI. I'm going to go ahead and hit select. I'm going to use a T2 micro. I'm going to leave everything as default. And in here, we've got our volume types. Now note here under encrypted, my root device volume is not encrypted and there's no option for me to encrypt it. If I was to add a new volume, I could add in any type of volume type in here and I can select whether or not I want it to be encrypted and what KMS key I want to use. So you can definitely encrypt additional volumes, but your root device volume, when you provision it from an Amazon Linux AMI, cannot be encrypted by default. And I'll show you how we go and encrypt this. And that's what we're going to cover off in this lab. So I'm just going to delete that. I'm just going to leave this as default. Let's go ahead and add our tags. And I'm just going to go and configure my security group. I'm going to launch it into my web DMZ. And I'm going to hit review and launch, and I acknowledge I've got the key pair. And there we go, that is now launching. So I'm just going to pause video and wait for this little EC2 instance to come back up. So that instance is now initialized. And if I click in here, I can go to my actions and I can go to image and I can create an image of the instance. That's not really going to help me encrypt it though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my volumes and instead I'm going to go ahead and create a snapshot of the volume. Now I've actually got two volumes in here and that's because in the last lab I actually stopped an instance. I didn't actually delete it. So I'm just going to go in and delete it so that it's not confusing for me. So I'm just going to go in here and go terminate. And I'm going to go ahead and terminate that instance. I'm just going to pause video while that terminates. Okay, so that is now terminated. I'm going to go back over to my volumes and it'll make it easier to see. So we can now see that I've only got one volume and it's in use. And so what I'm going to do with this volume is I'm going to go ahead and create a snapshot of the volume. So I'm going to call it my snap. Now note there's no option to encrypt. So I might call it unencrypted snap, something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and create my snapshot. So that is now creating my snapshot. I'll be able to see my snapshot in here. You can already see the progress, so it's 13% done. Because this is the first snapshot, it's going to take a little bit of time. So I'm going to pause video and wait for this snapshot to become live. Okay, so the status has now changed to completed. We can see it's called my unencrypted snap. If we look down here, it says encrypted, not encrypted. So if we go over to our actions, what we can actually do is we can copy. So we can copy this snapshot. And in doing the copy, we can actually encrypt it. So we can click in here to encrypt the snapshot. And once it's encrypted, that's it. We can't create another snapshot and unencrypt it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit copy. And this will go ahead and create a copy of the snap, but it's going to encrypt that copy. So my root device volume is now both unencrypted and we're going to have an encrypted version of it as well. So I'm just going to pause the video and wait for this to go live. Okay, so that is now completed. In here, I'm just going to change the name to unencrypted snap. I probably should have changed the description when I created the copy so that we could see it, but just change the name so it's easy to follow. So this is my encrypted snap. That's my unencrypted snap. If we look down here, we can actually see that it now says encrypted and it tells me which KMS key it's being used. So we do definitely know that this is now encrypted. So let's go to our actions. If I was to go down here and hit copy, you note that I cannot uncheck this box. So a copy of my encrypted snap is always going to be encrypted now. If I go in and create an image from this snap, let's go to our actions and create an image. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to call this my encrypted snapshot, encrypted snap, or my encrypted AMI, probably a better name. And then I'm going to do the same for the description. And I'm going to leave everything else as default, but you can see in here, it's my root device volume now, and it is encrypted. So let's go ahead and hit create. That is going to create an image from our snap, and we'll be able to see our images by going over to images and clicking on AMI. And that is automatically already available. And if I was to go ahead and launch, I can launch this instance and let's find one that will support it. So we could launch it as C3 large. I don't think I've got the option for T2 micro. No, I don't. So let's go down and select M3 medium. So I'm going to configure my instance details. I'm going to leave everything else as default. When I go in here, my root is now encrypted. You can see here it's encrypted, so I can't now launch that as an unencrypted volume. I can add some instance stores though. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to delete that out there. I'm going to go ahead and add my tags, and I'm going to use an existing security group. I'm going to use my web DMZ, and I go ahead and review it and launch, and I'm going to go ahead and launch that. So that is a way I can take my Amazon Linux AMI, and I can essentially create a snapshot of it, copy that snapshot, and when I'm copying, I then select to encrypt it. And then once that snapshot is copied, it is encrypted, and from that encrypted snapshot, I can go ahead and launch a Amazon Linux AMI. And we'll be able to see this once this is running. So it is now running. So if I unselect that and select it on here, and we look down here, we can see the AMI ID. So it's my encrypted AMI. If we go back over to my volumes, I'll be able to see this volume now, and it is this one here that's running in US East 1C, and you can see that it is encrypted. So I've got two different volumes now. I've got one in 1B that's not encrypted, and then I've got one over here that is encrypted. So onto my exam tips. So remember going into your exam that snapshots of encrypted volumes are going to be encrypted automatically, and volumes restored from encrypted snapshots are encrypted automatically. So essentially, once you encrypt a snapshot, that's it. It's always going to remain encrypted. So whether you do a restore or whether you copy it somewhere, it's always going to remain encrypted. And then you can also share snapshots, but only if they're unencrypted, and that these snapshots can also be shared with other AWS accounts or made public, and then anyone can use them. You can have them as community AMIs. And then finally, the most important thing is remembering the steps involved to encrypt the root device volume. So what we did was we created a snapshot of the unencrypted root device volume. We then created a copy of the snapshot, and we selected the encrypt option. And then we created an AMI from the encrypted snapshot, and we used that AMI to launch a new encrypted instance. And after that, the root device volume was always encrypted. So that is it for this lecture, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Thank you.